Bam! Jeez. So if you guys remember when we were out in Oklahoma wheeling, Ben and Cassie at Crossbar, I broke this stub shaft. We were looking for another one while we were out there, but had no success. So ended up buying a whole new setup from Spicer. Yeah, she's fully gone.
Ooh, those bearings are shot.
Oh yeah, a little needle bearing back there. All right, so we came home, I started working on things around the house. We went and ran our shore to shore, and after that I drove out here for the week to spend time with my buddy that runs Deeroff Automotive, John Deeroff. Old friend of mine. He's actually the one that got me into off-roading years ago. As you can see, he is still into off-roading now. This is his wife's Jeep. They just got repainted. They have the 4Runner. His sister's Jeep, his Jeep's in the garage. We're going to try to do a little work on it this week to get ready for our Moab, Colorado trip that's coming up in just 10 days from now is when we leave. We'll be on the trail in 2 weeks. With that in mind, we are here at his shop doing a bunch of little work to our Jeep. We kind of just Band-Aid it, keep it going, and then what I do is once a year is I bring it here and John helps us fix things the right way, not just Band-Aid it together. We had some pretty major fixes that needed done, so we absolutely had to make time to get over here. Number one being a broken stub shaft we broke when we were wheeling with Ben and Cassie with JK Gear and Gadgets. Secondly was we're spilling fuel everywhere for the past few months, so I had to get a new check valve in line. Put it on the lift. We're starting to find a bunch of other issues. I'll take you guys inside the garage and show you what else we've done so far over the last day and a half here in the garage. I'll be here for another 2 days yet. Walk you guys around the Jeep and talk about everything that has been done so far. Skid plate would look like a taco, so we pulled that out, got it straightened out, added a little reinforcement. With the LS, nobody really makes a skid plate for this, so I made my own a couple years ago. And where it's supposed to be flat right there, it was actually pushed all the way up into the trans and that, so hopefully this will add a little bit of strength. These bolts were all ground off from hitting rocks, so we had to redo all those. They kind of looked like these or worse, where you can see there's not much left, so we had to torch those off. Up here, put a new power steering pump in it. That's number 3 for this Jeep. A week ago, Carrie was driving this. The pulley, the plastic pulley basically exploded. We went to a metal one, found out the AC belt was worn out, so replaced that. What else have we done? Oh yeah, we had a couple holes punctured in the second exhaust this has had back up here. This actually was buckled, so it's going to be okay now. We're going to identify this as a skid plate so this won't get damaged anymore. Put a new charcoal canister in. This guy was broken off here. Turns out I could have probably just replaced this piece, but we replaced the whole thing. Put a new filler in. If anybody's been wheeling with me in the past 6 months, you've probably seen me losing some fuel. Well, that was the reason why, so that's fixed. If you've been around me the last year and a half to 2 years, everyone's been telling me every time I'm out in the dark, hey, your taillight's not working. Yes, I knew my taillight wasn't working. We just didn't have time to fix one simple broken wire up in here, so that is now fixed. Trying to take care of a lot of little things. Rear locker still is not working. That's going to be going to Jeepers Creepers next week, and hopefully he has 2 days to get that done before our trip. So we're hoping that works. I have a box of parts for him over here with the new diff cover even to get this shined up and looking nice. When I get home, I'm going to have to put new bearings in the front axle. Put those in probably 8 months ago. They're actually bad already. Those were just O'Reilly ones. I have new Spicer parts sitting at home. Those were just back ordered. New axle shaft is in. What else have we done? I think that's about it. A couple little things I gotta fix, find little stuff when you get this up in the air. Yeah, big thing is too, when I get back home, I forgot to bring them. I'm gonna replace track bar bushings. Those are both on both ends toasted. This has lasted almost 5 years, so not too upset about that. $50 bushings, no big deal, but that's gonna be a couple hour project, as well as when I get back I need to put all new bearings in these front axles. They are dried out. We go through too much water and mud. This is one of my bearings here. It does not want to spin, even though it's only a few months old. Yeah, so that's been the week so far. We have a little work we're gonna do on Jesse's Jeep, putting a gearbox in, as well as a little work on the Toter home. I don't have trailer brakes working right now. For some reason, they decided to quit on our way home last trip. And I'm hoping next week to get some fenders built for the trailer. That's on the list too. hopefully that's going to get done. That's kind of a project. Not sure if that's going to make the list or make it checked off the list or not. We have the hood up on the Toter right now. The last 2 trips we've been on, we've had a leaking coolant bottle, so I've had to stop every 2 to 3 hours and put 2 to 3 gallons of water in it because it's been seeping out fairly quick. This was over at Scott Bushrow's place. My buddy that works on this, he put a new shifter bushing in for us, fixed the exhaust, did rear brakes on it. I just don't have the tools to get these tires off, and this is what he does for a living. He went over it one more time, checked a lot off the list for us, pulled the dog house off on the interior, which actually was really nice, because this truck used to be like you had to scream at, Carrie and I had to scream at each other to talk inside there. We added a sound deadener that my buddy Tom Manley happened to give me a couple weeks ago to just keep in my garage to use whenever. So we had it around, it came in handy. That got tossed in. Oh man, oil change. Gosh, the amount of work we've done the last few weeks just goes on and on. But that's kind of the way we do it. We let it build up, and then all of a sudden we got to do everything at once. I did order new trailer tires because these are my new ones here and these are the old ones here. Hopefully those are going to come in to get those put on. We stopped on our one trip at a store they had 4. We bought all 4 of them, replaced them, so I wanted to put new ones on these spots as well. Even though they look like they have decent tread on them still, I'd rather just go on this trip and start off with everything new. I guess that's about it. Lots of rambling. All right, see ya. Third day working here. We have moved on to working on Jesse's Jeep. We have the gearbox out. We found a wheel bearing that was bad and grinding. I think these have been done multiple times, but it's a pretty common thing. It used to be like I could do these in minutes when we used to do these all the time. Working on the old TJ makes me feel nostalgic, but I want to show you guys my Jeep is off the lift, and our buddy Jason actually came over here last night and started buffing my Jeep for me. I had put a new Ultra hook on, and he wanted my old one, so I said, you want to trade me? Fortunately, that worked out. He's already done this driver's side. I'll show you guys this paint. I don't think my paint's ever looked this clean or good. Shiny, shiny. Not common for my Jeep. Usually it's muddy, gets a quick wash, gets back out, gets dirty again, and just rinse, cycle, repeat. You can see here, this is the way things were looking before. Dirty. It gets to a point where this stuff just has a hard time coming off. It sits on there so much. He's going to come back and do this side tonight and get it cleaned up for us. Yeah, the Jeep's getting dialed in. When I get home, I just I've got all the bearing parts to fix the bearings. I've got to put new bushings in the front track bar, and we're taking our Jeep over to Jeepers Creepers to have the rear axle fixed as well. Man, look at that paint. It's awesome. So, getting excited about Moab and Colorado. It feels crazy that that's only days away. The other thing that's on the agenda, it's supposed to get 85 degrees here today. So, we're starting out early, not super early, but 8:30 in the morning, and we're trying to get my trailer brakes working. Over the past few months, we've had nothing but brake problems with the truck and the trailer causing us problems. So we're out here trying to adjust these brakes right now and get them working. We just found 2 bad grounds underneath, so we're going to start with what we know by fixing those. I'm not super hopeful that'll fix our issue, but we'll see. We tested, and only the center brake was grabbing, so we're starting to try to adjust the other 2. So problem number 1, get the trailer brakes working. Kind of need those, especially for going through the Colorado mountains. And Utah, not really a good idea to have no trailer brakes. We'll be pulling about 35,000 pounds between the toter, the trailer, and we've been towing 2 Jeeps. We'll be pulling RJKU as well as Carrie's parents, JT, and we'll be meeting them at the Denver airport. We said, what's the sense in you guys driving the 24-hour drive? We'll drive out and pick you up. So that's the plan. Yeah, also flex sealed the reservoir for the coolant on this, and hopefully that fixes that issue. If it doesn't, it sucks. We drove the last 2 trips with that leaking. It leaks out, it's up top, so it doesn't cause the vehicle to run hot, but it starts throwing flashing check engine lights, so I gotta stop, dump 2 gallons of water in it, and then continue driving. Yeah, getting together. Again, the other thing I'd really want to do is get my drive over fenders done before we leave. I don't know if that's gonna happen. I have a Jeep JK I'm helping basically build. We're putting Rubicon axles, lift kit, all kinds of other goodies underneath it next week as well. It's supposed to be stupid hot here in Toledo. Stupid hot for us anyway. 80 degrees or above is hot for us. I'm a Michigander, so I like the 60s and 70s. They're talking mid-90s next week. This is the copper.
Yeah, the easy bend stuff.
Man, this box identifies as new. So, getting into working on the trailer. John noticed we were doing the adjusters to try to get the brakes adjusted. It kind of looks like maybe the outside two axles really haven't been grabbing, especially this back axle is very much out of adjustment. The center's been dragging. We actually have a flat spot in this tire because the center drags more. So on the other side, John noticed that the adjuster was broken, so we pulled things apart, and it's a good thing we did because we have the Bluetooth brake pad going on right there. Bearings look good, so that's good. So we're gonna try to get this replaced, and I think we're gonna replace the drum too. It's pretty scored. Luckily, these are pretty easy to change. I think it's just these 4 bolts, 5 bolts, and this whole thing comes off. Pop it on, rewire it in. But what I need to do is check the other side, because if this side's bad and gone, very much the potential that this side's going to be gone too. So let's get this up in the air and check it out. I hate these stupid acorn nuts. So these ones with these covers, they split like that. Stupid. So I think I'm going to order some new lug nuts while these are off and go to this style that doesn't have these covers on it like that. Girl and settle down. Live a simple life in a quiet town. Steady as she goes. Steady as she goes. So steady as she goes. Your friends have shown a kink in the single life. You've had too much to think, now you need a wife. Back here for sure. This week is always a very expensive week for me coming to see John. Way cheaper than if I was to have this work done and not have a good friend that helps me and me kicking in a little bit. But, you know, whatever. This is like always a long time coming because we just kind of let stuff ride, and if it works, we send it. But obviously these brakes, for example, they need done. There was a lot of little things on the Jeep need done. Same thing with our camper with Scotty worked on it. There was stuff that I had no idea was even bad, or, you know, again, it worked good enough for us to use it, so we used it. All right, time to go part shopping. Alright, I couldn't take it. We had to buy new lug nuts. I don't feel like having to struggle with these dumb things on the side of the highway, so spend the money. Spend once, cry once. So I got a question. Does anybody else own this Milwaukee 1/2-inch impact gun that's right here? So number one, I got this cool boot for it that I really like because it's kept it in good shape. I've had this for probably 4 or 5 years. John and I ran a test on this yesterday. We had a discussion of how tight to put this if we're using this for putting lug nuts on. So my Jeep calls for around 140 foot-pounds for those lug nuts. They're 8 lug axles. In the past, I've always put this on the number 2 setting, run them home, set it on the number 3 setting, hit it real quick, just a quick da-da-da, and it's done. And in the past, I swear that the what I was getting was around that 120 pounds. But what we discovered last night is we actually went ahead and set this on number 2, ran my lug nuts down, and then put a torque wrench on those lug nuts. And what we found is this on number 2 is actually closer to 145 foot-pounds, and number 3, it's over 160, I think, is what we found. So something interesting. So from now on, I'm just going to put this on 2, send them home, and call it good to go. So when I had done these trailer tires, I had put this just like that, number 2 and 3 for a couple seconds, which is exactly what I did on the Jeep too, but we actually had, what, 7 or 8 broken lug nuts?
8 of them.
8 broken lug nuts, which I've never had that experience before. Those lug nuts were only probably a year old. I replace them roughly every 2 years because they get pretty rusty. They're black. So yeah, it was just, I've never had that before, and it was just like one after another, and we had to torch them all off, turn into a big thing. So yeah, number 2.
That's right, buddy. You show that turd who's boss.
Well, now we came to the decision we're just gonna pull all of the hubs, and hopefully this doesn't get too expensive, but this one's pretty rough looking. It was full of grease. All right, after John and I went over everything, the decision was we're gonna go with 2 backers on this side, 2 backers on the other side, and we'll be able to reuse 4 of the drums. And then the plan is the front axle is still okay now, but I'll plan on doing that next summer. So trying to limit the spending a little bit. So what we say, that's gonna be probably about $800 there in parts, I think. Good with that for now. Back with $700 in new parts, getting her done. New backers, some new drums, looking pretty. Anybody know trailer parts is $700 fair for 4 backers and 2 drums? I don't know. Everything's going up these days, right? Well, the trailer is back together and working great. Going into this whole deal, we started all this because I assumed the camper had some kind of electrical issue, and I think my brake controller was like throwing a code that it had a wiring problem. I think in the long run it was actually just that we had 2 bad grounds I found back here, plus all the brakes were roached out, so I'm thinking that's actually fixed our problem. So I went in, turned the key on, we had this up in the air, we spun all the tires, we have working brakes, so I think we are good to go. Everything looks good to go. Bunch of new parts. Before we go, I plan on getting a few more new tires as well for the trailer. So one other problem we've been dealing with for the last 2 trips has been this bottle right here. This bottle has been leaking from a plastic weld down in this area right here. What I've done is we had a plastic epoxy that we added a good thick coat to, let that dry for the last 24 hours. At 12 hours we added a coat of Flex Seal and let it sit for another 12 hours and added a second coat of Flex Seal, which has been on there since this morning at about 8:30. It is currently 6 p.m. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to get this bottle back on, and hopefully this does the job. This is the 3rd time I've tried to fix this bottle. The first time using JB Weld plastic weld. The second time was a Flex Seal brush on epoxy. I think it was more of a gasket maker. So we're hoping this works. We've tried to find this bottle. We've looked all over the US junkyards and things like that and have not had any success. Can you guys tell it is hot here? We've been sweating. I just went inside and took a little break in front of a fan for 10 minutes. All right, I'm gonna turn the camera around and show you guys me putting this bottle in. It's a real easy job. So to work on this truck, I gotta climb up in here every time, in and out. So this is the hose that is off the bottom. When we started this whole deal, this is what I thought was bad, was this hose. That was the first thing I replaced. That did not seem to fix the problem. So I'm gonna pre-install this. This ends up sitting up underneath like that. Try to do this without putting too much pressure on this piece that we welded. So basically this ring right here had a plastic weld there, which it's underneath a good 1/8 inch of this material now. So I'm hoping that is not gonna be a problem anymore. Moving tight. Get these hooked up without putting too much pressure on things. Spin this above the engine. It's kind of a neat design, actually. I like it. Overflow and sensor over here to tell you if it's got fluid in it. That's the one I think's been sending a code. It's got a spot rubbed in it. To tape that up. Well, here we go. This holds water. This will be the first time in a long time it hasn't leaked. Cross our fingers, say a prayer, let me know. Will it hold? This top bottle right here holds about 2 gallons. So I hear it gurgling like it's going down into the tubes. And before, this used to just pour out of the bottom down. You'd see it just start pouring out of there. I don't see any drippy. Please, Jesus. All right, let's go get another gallon of this old water here. I'm not putting actual coolant in it yet until I know this thing's for sure sealed. This whole system, I believe, takes like 12 gallons. So it's not going to be cheap to fill it. Once I know it holds, we'll drain the radiator, put full concentrate in, and get this filled up right. Believe it or not, we're a few months away from it being cold again, even though it's 87 and hot and sweaty here today. I was wondering if you could buff the powder coat like that. Obviously you can. He was even buffing the glass, so not bad.
Better than nothing.
Look at the hood versus where it was done. Got a new windshield frame coming. My buddy Jeff put glass in for us. You guys tow your rigs and strap them down. If you don't have these on your axles, I would definitely strongly advise getting them. They are a game changer. Hooking up is as simple as this. So I know Matt over at Bleepin' Jeep sells these, as well as other sites, but they're super cheap. They weld on real quick. I don't run them on the front. I go through the C's on my axle, but on the back, super easy. We're off and on our trailer 20 times a year easy. So I love it. Well, y'all, it's been fun. It's been real. It is Friday. Came out here on Tuesday morning. It's been non-stop work for John and I, but trailer is loaded up with 2 Jeeps. The trailer brakes are back working again. Looks like the coolant leak is sealed on there. And I have a whole laundry list of things that we've done on these vehicles, so you guys can see everything we fixed. List is long. I've got a few more things to fix when we get home on that. Get Jessie her Jeep returned. We are, I think, 8 days away from leaving for Colorado Moab. Does anyone else have a list that you kind of things you want to do, but it's a lot of times your time is spent fixing stuff you have to do? I have a list of things I want to do to this camper, like some electrical that was never finished by the guy that built this 20 years ago. Multiple things. My doors that swing up, I can't close my outside door with the stairs down, so I need to alter the door. A bunch of little stuff. But it runs and drives. It gets us there at a fraction of the cost of a new $100,000 diesel truck. So we're happy about that. There is some maintenance to these vehicles, but again, I'm not paying $1,000 a month plus for a payment. Big thanks to John at Deer Off Automotive. If you guys are in Ohio and need a mechanic, he really is the man. Probably the most honest mechanic you'll ever meet. If you don't need it, he's not going to sell it to you. And honestly, every time I bring my vehicle here, I think I know what it needs, and we're always finding stuff. He has a great eye for spotting stuff. He'll even do that to you on the trail. So sometimes we'll be on the trail and he says, hey, you know, this is broken or hanging down, and we don't even know it. So good dude. Looking forward to wheeling with those guys here in just a couple weeks. We'll make sure we get you guys some footage of that as well. We will see you soon.